So hello and welcome to this presentation about how to teach digital safety for journalists. My name is Steffen Leidl. I work for Deutsche Welle Academy. I hope you know Deutsche Welle. We are the international broadcaster of Germany. And what is the Academy? The Academy is a center for media development. We work in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, doing trainings and consulting. I work especially many times in Latin America. And why this topic? Maybe you could put my slides on because I have all on my presentation. So why this topic? We realized after the Snowden's revelations that we didn't really have this topic on our agenda, although we should have it. Also our partners in Africa, Latin America and Asia, for example, just to give you an example, some weeks ago I went to Colombia, and you know Colombia is still a very conflictive country because now there are negotiations with the FARC guerrilla and the government, and many journalists are tapped and they are spied out, but only few journalists really know how to protect and how to secure their online communication. And I went to the El Espectador newspapers, for me, one of the most courageous newspapers in the world. They dared to report about Pablo Escobar, and he blew up the whole newspaper in the 80s. So they are still in this topics about drug trafficking. And they asked me, okay, what can we do? We don't really know how to protect ourselves. And what I first want to say, it's not about tools, it's not about knowing PGP and Tor. We began to put this topic on our agenda, realizing an open online workshop in December last year. I've put you all the link here, the Academy. Also, the bit.ly.com Teach DigiSafe is a low pad where I put you the links of the sessions. And if you want, you can also comment on it and can put other links you consider interesting. And we were overwhelmed by the success of this open online workshop because we had more than 500 registered participants from all over the world who wanted to know what can I do to communicate more securely. We invited a lot of very renowned experts, and I strongly recommend you that you go tomorrow, I think, to the session of Tactical Tech with Anne Roth and Daniel Oklune. They are very, very, very high-ranking experts on these issues, and they are going to talk a little bit about tools, but also about what kind of strategy do I have to follow if I want to stay secure. And what I want to share with you, I'm not a super IT security expert. I'm a journalistic trainer. I teach normally multimedia storytelling, digital storytelling, and now also we are working out this topic. And what we learned, the lessons learned, I would like to present you. And I want to convince you, I've seen here and all over very euphoric people talking about WhatsApp, for example. I'm not really sure if I want to share this euphoric mood. I'm coming back to this later. But what we want to do now is to avoid this kind of workshop situation. And this is, many times you have a high-ranking expert who has about 100 tools, shows these tools, and everybody says, oh, great tools. But after the workshop, sometimes happens something really weird. You have the people go out the workshop, take out their iPhone, and they write a message in WhatsApp. Oh, I had a great workshop about digital security. So I think this is not the real approach that helps people to secure their online communication. So I want to talk about digital safety, so I have to talk about risk and how we deal with risks. And we are all human beings, and I think there are a lot of dangers out there, and if you want, you can have a nice life. You don't have to smoke. You can stop smoking. You can go by bike or ski with a helmet. You can put always the security belt. But we all know that life is different, and risk is fun. So people like to take risky measures. But this only until something really terrible happens. And I want to give you an example from Germany. A few years ago, this local politician had a ski accident. He had a helmet and collided with a woman without helmet. The woman died. He survived. And after this terrible accident, there was a huge demand on ski helmets. And if you look for Google Trends, for example, I looked it up, you see a very high peak there. People looking for Skihelm, which is a German word for ski helmet. And you also have another peak in December last year when Michael Schumacher had this accident. And what is interesting in this graphic is people not only bought ski helmets, they really wear them when there are no skiing. So they change their behavior because something terrible happens. Now we have this, Edward Snowden and the revelations, and we have every day a lot of headlines like this. We had headlines like the Heartbleed security bug a few weeks ago, the first security bug with a cool logo, if you can remind the heart. So did people change their behavior because of this terrible, I'm sure, surprise, surprise. We had a recent survey in Germany. Have you changed the way you handle personal data since the NSA scandal? And a huge majority said, no, I didn't change anything. And they asked also, for example, almost 1 in 2 said, no, I have nothing to hide. This is a typical answer also said by Eric Schmidt from Google, who also said, if you don't have anything to hide, why are you worrying about it? Also, almost 50% of the people said, no, my data is sufficiently secure. And only 3.8% of people said, okay, yes, I take measures, but whatever measures they mean, I don't know really. This is for the general population. What about journalists? There are not really surveys or reports on how journalists really face this topic. This topic is quite new in a sense that now there's a huge interest because all the time journalists always had to protect themselves and their sources. But if you talk to journalists, many say, yes, I have a PGP, but I don't really know how to do it, and I don't really do it. I just would like to ask you here, do you encrypt your email? Just raise your hand. Or do you know at least, or at least sometimes? Oh, wow. Yeah? Yes. The Germans are very special with their privacy, you know. So only one. Who is using WhatsApp? Please, rising. That's it. Okay, almost everybody. And have you changed your passwords after the Heartbleed bug? There's the Germans, yes. Great. So it's very typical. And why is this? Maybe we can have a quote from Yevgeny Morozov, who's also attending this conference, I think. He said, okay, all this surveillance stuff is a crime without victims. Visible victims. So maybe we would like to feel a little bit like a victim, and I have prepared a little experiment to show you that I, as a non-expert, can track everything in a wireless LAN. The only thing I need, I prepared this with a friend of mine who's really a good coder and a security expert. I just have a router here, a little router, costs 30 euros at Amazon. And with this router and the wireless I have in this room, I can create another wireless. If you look in your settings, you will see a wireless called TP-Link or something like this. Not everybody can access now because it won't work really if we have 20 people now accessing one Wi-Fi, but I have my colleague Julia here from Deutsche Welle, Julia Hildebrand, and she has an iPad and she's connected with this wireless. And don't do anything. I would like to show you the other thing I need for this is a little program called Wireshark. Have a look if I can. So many. Okay. Where is it? That's the presentation effect. Stop. Okay, this is, I think, the problem is with the different screens here I have. You see now? Okay. So Wireshark is, I mean, I've been told it's a little bit like a hacker program. So you can make analysis of networks. And what I'm going to do now is when Julia is going to connect to a page in Germany, a Spiegel Online, for example, you're going to see the whole relation between the iPad, the servers of Spiegel Online, and all these other things between. So I just clear this here without saving, so it's empty. So Julia, I would ask you please to access Spiegel Online right now. I hope it. So you see now, imagine you are at the airport and you're using a wireless network somebody give you. Okay, you can use this, it's free. So I, as a non-technical person, now seeing the IP address, I see your MAC address, I see a lot of stuff here, the page you're accessing, and what I can do even now, I can export some objects, the HTTP objects, and you're going to see that these are, for example, the images I'm tracking now of Julia. I can save this. Teach Perugia. I can save it on my desktop. And sorry, let's messed up here. Here you see and you see a lot of data, but you also see images, and these are the images from the Spiegel Online page. I can track, although I don't know where she is accessing. So this is how I can monitor the whole traffic of a person, just giving him a wireless LAN I just set up. Yeah? And this is really, really easy. I mean, I'm not an expert. If I was an expert, now I really could identify a lot of more things of her. The whole track history, her location, of course. I mean, this is quite simple because if you have the IP address, it's no problem. You know everybody, I think. And this shows a little bit that we are really transparent. Yeah? So to come back to the presentation. Stop here. Okay. Just be a little bit patient, please. Okay. So this was just to show you a little bit more about this easy tracking. And here you have a story done by the Spiegel, who the Spiegel revealed some month ago, the NSA toolbox. And you can see in this graphic, I put you the link in the low pad, you can see where the NSA actually is tracking almost in every part of your desktop. It's possible. Just to show you one thing, a little nice USB stick, USB cable you can buy via Amazon, for example, the sponsor of this festival. So, and if you see this little red thing inside, it's a chip. With this chip, the NSA can set up a wireless network and can insert spyware into your computer and can keylog everything you are doing. And there's a man who can really better explain this. I have a little video prepared from Jacob Appelbaum. I think you should know he's an activist, but also works as a journalist. He has a very strong relationship to Glenn Greenwald, Laura Poitras, all this community now actually living in Berlin. You have a lot of these activists living in Berlin, also Sarah Harrison from WikiLeaks. And he was attending the Transmediale in Berlin, and he was talking about this new NSA toolbox. And just to show you.
And in this case, this device that's sitting in front of us is a custom-made piece of hardware, which the NSA deploys in order to bridge networks or computer systems that are otherwise not attached to networks. And it's a little difficult to see, but when we talk about this in the framework of found art, it can't get better than this. This is actual NSA modeling of a USB cable where the little red part at the bottom is, in fact, the chip that has been added to a regular USB cable that allows this device to be a wireless device that the NSA can use to inject software into your computer. So when you imagine this, you can imagine finding a USB cable and seeing it a little bit differently, knowing that if you don't know the genesis of that cable, you might not actually know what's inside of it. So there are a lot of assumptions that we take for granted when we see a physical object. And it's a document that, like this that allows us to cross over from, oh, that's a completely ridiculous thought, there couldn't be anything wrong with that, to, well, I did buy it with a credit card. I did get it on the internet. I bought it on Amazon. And yeah, my politics are sort of interesting to some people that might have these capabilities. And then the question becomes one of how we even begin to confirm what this device does. And so we see it potentially very differently once we see documents that prove that these kinds of things exist. And it's very difficult for someone to say that it doesn't exist, because this is a sample from an original document written by the people that build and deploy these tools. And so we can actually see the humor, we can see the brutality, we can see the overall culture of the people that deploy these types of devices. And that allows us to put ourselves inside of their shoes and to imagine some of the things they might build. Though some of the things they build are actually just beyond belief. As an example, this is a similar implant, as they're called. And this is an Ethernet module that also has USB ports underneath it. So if you have a computer, you can imagine looking at your computer, seeing that there's an Ethernet port and 2 USB ports. And now imagine in between the Ethernet port and the USB module, helpfully illustrated by the NSA here, there is a small red profile device in between. And that is a Howler Monkey device. And the Howler Monkey device, until a couple of weeks ago when we revealed this in Der Spiegel, and I spoke about this at the Chaos Computer Club, it was the stuff of just wild speculation and science fiction. I mean, really, these things weren't even found in the wild in a way where people could understand them and attribute them to the NSA.
Yeah, just it's in the internet, the whole speech, and it shows this high-end surveillance. So, shall we give up as journalists? I mean, it's a rhetoric question. Of course, not digital security matters for journalists. You just have to read reports like the Freedom on the Net report from Freedom House from 2013 to know that the internet freedom worldwide is in decline. So when digital security matters for journalists, how should they deal with it? So here comes in play now my recommendations I would like to share. I mean, if you have comments on that later on, we could check them, or if you have other advices. The first thing I want to say, don't panic, because if you get panicked, things like this happen. You remember when Facebook bought WhatsApp? This was this incredible deal in February of this year. After that, in Germany also, but also internationally, there were a lot of reports about how insecure is WhatsApp. And there were almost every article in Germany was talking about a Swiss app called Threema. So many people thought, okay, to be sure it's secure, I just have to download this sexy app Threema, because it's really easy to install, and that people say it's secure. And you can see again here the Google Trends picture. In February, Facebook buys WhatsApp, and you see this peak, but you also see that this peak didn't last very long. After that, people, I don't know what they did, but maybe they installed WhatsApp, Threema, and sometimes we had the weird situation that people on their mobile device had, on one hand, Threema, on the other hand, WhatsApp. So this is a question also of tools. I mean, what sense does it make to have one tool and then don't change your habits? I come back to this later on. It's not a question of tools. And we have to pass the Greenwald test. This is a quote I took from Edward Snowden. He said at the South by Southwest conference this year, because you remember the anecdote with Glenn Greenwald that Glenn Greenwald didn't know how to encrypt his email. So Snowden got in contact with him and asked him, I would like to give you very sensitive information. How can I do it? And he didn't know, so Snowden had to show him how to use PGP encryption or other encryption tools. And one of the big problems is that all the software, open source software, is very difficult for many people, or people think it's too difficult to install and to use. And so it's a responsibility also of journalistic trainers to identify tools which are really making sense for people in their daily routine. I mean, we are not everybody Glenn Greenwald's here, but also normal journalists have the responsibility to protect their sources and to find tools. But you shouldn't think there's a magic app which solves everything. Also, there's another point. Digital security sometimes seems to be a secret science, and I asked Frank Smith from Global Journal Security. He's a very renowned expert in this field, and I asked him, okay, what could journalistic trainers improve to teach digital safety? And he had a little critic for the internet freedom community as well. I mean, you have a lot of activists who really know a lot of stuff, really, really good. But the problem is, he says, that they have an evangelical message, but instead it remains for the most part a small club with unwritten barriers of entry. What this means is also what I observed within the journalistic community. You have some journalists who really know how to secure their mails, and the big majority don't know. And it's difficult that the people who know really share their knowledge with the others. It's a little bit like, you don't know. I won't show you really, because I know more. So there's a little truth in it. And I think it's also a question of train the trainer. I mean, one of our strong part of Deutsche Welle Academy is that we try to facilitate trainers which methods they can use to teach journalistic issues. And so you should explain it simple. Trying to use from cartoons to illustrated videos, quizzes. I have put you some examples there. Because many times you have the problem that people go to a security workshop, but after that they are really shocked. And this is problematic, because this is the only moment when they wanted to change their behavior, they connect a bad experience. And so to get them back to treat this issue, it's very difficult. One of the most important points I think we have to do is teach data awareness. And don't overlook the obvious things. What I mean by that, For example, if you go to the Google Play Store, I mean, everybody of us likes to have little games, maybe Angry Birds, for example, Runtastic to monitor our training sessions, etc., etc. But you have to be aware that the Google Play Store, for example, also the iTunes is, Apple is a little bit more secure because they have more control, but Google Play Stores, especially the unofficial app stores, contain malicious apps. And these malicious apps, you don't know really what does this app do with my data. And sometimes you should ask yourself when you download an app about Angry Birds Premium, and this app asks you, please give me access to your location data. Why does this app need my location data, for example? And what are these malicious tasks? Because I could, or my friend of mine could program an app for the Google Play Store, make a game, but at the same time tell this app, okay, so record the phone conversations, take full control on the handset, steal the personal data, record all the GPS data, and download other malware. This is completely possible. It's not difficult. I mean, Google's trying to identify, but it's very difficult to monitor all this because you have a lot of apps. But you also should think that it's not only the NSA, the Secret Services. I mean, there are huge companies out there, and we not only have big data, we have a big business with big data. And the Financial Times developed a little special. I think it's quite nice. Okay, again, this stuff, stop here. And for example, how much is your personal data worth? So I can put in here different indicators if I married, if I'm getting married, if I have children, if I'm getting children. So with this little special, you can see the value of your personal data. You see, I'm expecting a baby, okay. So, and I have also health conditions, I have a back pain, and you can see here a little calculator on the right side, which shows you how much is the value of your personal data. This is a piece of journalism which shows you that selling data is a huge business. There are many, many companies just doing this. And this we should always have in mind. And again, the issue of metadata. I'm not sure if anybody also already mentioned a study by Stanford University. It's quite new. And they ask the simple question, are the metadata really sensitive? Because you might remember Barack Obama saying, okay, NSA spying, we are not tracking the content, we're just collecting metadata. Yeah? For example, the date when you call somebody, how long do you call somebody, where did you call him? And so they try to find out, is this possible with this metadata, track people and identify interesting patterns? And what was the answer? What do you think? Of course, phone data is ambiguously sensitive. He says, for example, we were able to infer medical conditions. For example, why does a woman always call the same doctor which is based in Berlin in a certain place, and there are also people going to have children, for example. So maybe this is information you can conclude out of the metadata. And one of the very interesting specials made with this phone metadata is one special of Open Data City. Maybe you might remember, the Germans might remember the special with Malte Spitz, a green politician. I will show you a little bit later. It's about 3 years old. But here's a new example showing the mobile phone and email data of Swiss politician Balthasar Glättli. He gave all his phone metadata to Open Data City, so they could create a data visualization, and I would like to show you. And with this data visualization, you can see almost everything, when this person called, at what place, where he moved in a half year, 6 months. And you even can see his network. Yeah? With all the metadata, you can interconnect all the other contacts, and you can highlight clusters, for example, with people he's connected. He have also a calendar where you can see when he was in which city in Swiss. So this is just made with metadata, which is easy to get. And this should shock us a little bit, I think, because maybe today we say, oh, I don't have anything to hide, but who knows how conditions in your country are changing. Just to give you an example, I've been in Egypt 2 years ago, and people we worked there, we worked with journalists there. Many of these journalists now are in prison after Morsi was pulled down. Many of these people we trained there now are facing death penalties, and many of them were spied out as well. And so I have now many of them still in my Facebook profile. So when I go maybe to United States, and then United States say, okay, you have had contact with this guy which is in prison in Egypt, and he's very near to Muslim Brotherhood, are you also implicated with terrorism? I mean, we always have to have in mind this, that conditions can change quickly. And to show you a little video about this possibilities of what you can track with local data, I have a little video from the American Civil Liberties Union, and they made this video on what the government can do with all that location data. So enjoy this.
Thank you for joining us. We are excited to give you an exclusive first look into our new system for the acquisition and processing of Americans' location data. Using the target Mr. Jack Benjamin as a case study, we will explore our system's capabilities in the domestic policing context. As you can see, Mr. Benjamin was flagged as a potential DUI risk. But before we go too far, let's check out all of the background information we can access about our subject. We can track Mr. Benjamin's movements by date, look for patterns in his car travel, even use a heat map to see where he's been. If we view his top locations, oh, looks like lots of nights spent at someone else's private home. Must be a lover, but he left at 3:50 a.m. and didn't return until almost 6 weeks later. Could be some trouble in paradise? The house is registered to a Mary Smith. If we look at her other visitors, it seems that Mary has a few close friends. Wonder if Mr. Benjamin's aware that a certain Bill Montgomery has spent a few nights with her. But I digress. Let's go back to the main screen. Jack appears to be quite a union activist. We'd better notify our partner George over at Big Corp, just in case Jack has been involved with the trouble they've been having over there. Going back to Jack's lifestyle, we can look at where he tends to be, say between the hours of 2 and 5 a.m., and who is in close proximity during those hours. Well, there's his lover, but who are the others? It looks like they didn't share a bedroom, but we have to wonder what is going on with those other individuals at such a late hour. Police patrol might need to keep an eye on them, too. So far, we've just been poking around, but let's go back to that DUI pattern alert for Jack. If we take a peek at how the system data mined the conclusion that Jack was at risk of a DUI, you'll see 4 factors. First, there was a social gathering in progress. Click details to see who was there. Second, look at all of their location trails. 2 of them stopped at liquor stores. Third, one of the attendees has a prior. Finally, you can see that our live monitoring algorithms identified another attendee's movement pattern as highly suggestive of DUI. No officer was able to reach the suspect in time to administer a test, but his license plate number has been watch-listed for heightened scrutiny. Of course, a DUI is just one of the many possible alerts that the system can generate. There's another alert we received for one Clayton Porter for movement patterns suggesting possible criminal behavior. Upon investigation, the suspect was determined to be a real estate agent. But, folks, that's just a taste of what this powerful new system is capable of. We look forward to working with your department for many years to come in our mutual efforts to keep America a safe and controlled place where no one, no matter where they are, can commit wrongdoing. Thank you.
Anybody here with iPhone? Yeah. Do you have? If somebody has an iPhone from 4S or with iOS 7, you can try something to check if you what kind of geodata are tracked by Apple. You just have to go to your privacy settings, and in your privacy settings you find location services. And when you enter location services, you also can access, if you scroll down, system services. And when you click on your system services, you have another point there is frequent locations. And if it is on, activated, many people don't know if it is activated or not. Normally it is activated by default. You can click on it and then you get this. And this is a map of your favorite places where you move around. And this is a screenshot from a colleague of mine, and I pixeled her private address because it was her home where she lives with her husband. But you also can see this blue dots on this map in Berlin, and you see Wolterstraße 6 is Deutsche Welle, where she works every day. You also see Bundespressekonferences, where the press conferences are from the German government. And you see these little blue spots there in the western part of Berlin. This is the zoo, where she always goes the weekend with her little boy. So you can see, oh, it's interesting, this pattern. And many people don't really know that this data are tracked and sent to Apple servers so that they can have better, can buy better products. But on the other hand, we also know that Apple has a close connection to the NSA and secret services. The same in Android. If you're in Android, you just have, Android is easy because you just have to activate your location setting, and then you can track very well. For example, here I tracked, a colleague of mine gave me his Google location history. So you can Google location history to see your own Google location history. And for example, you see his trip to Bangladesh. He went from Berlin to Frankfurt to, this is the trip, Attila, I met you in Frankfurt actually. And then he went to Dhaka in Bangladesh. And then you have the Google location history in Dhaka, for example, what he did there. And you see that he had his hotel there, then he went to the press center. And he also, every evening, also went to a little lake there, down there, to feed ducks. So, again, you can track a person and you can take your conclusions. Even you can see the terminal where he left for Germany. And this is always that Google says, of course, and Facebook and all these big companies says, it's only for your good. We are your best friend because we are trying to gather as much as information as possible to give you better service. But another thing is here, the bandwidth management. Maybe you have the Chrome app on your Android phone. If you have the Android phone app, the Chrome app, you have in the settings bandwidth management. And Google says because some people don't have, would like to how do you say it, sorry, not to have too much data consumed. So Google says, okay, if you don't want to have a lot of data consumed now, you can use our bandwidth management, but every traffic from then is tracked by the Google servers, of course. This is the price you have to pay. Yeah. Then another point I said before already, it's not about tools. It's not about using Tor, PGP, TrueCrypt, Threema, Enigma, etc., JabberTalk. You find all these tools. They are very important. You find in this direction, in the link I give you. But you should think before using tools why you are using a tool, because many times just the tools make your head spin. So you should understand basic concepts, for example, end-to-end encryption. Everybody knows what end-to-end encryption means? Yes? Somebody doesn't know what end-to-end encryption means? Okay. So just to give you an example, how end-to-end encryption works. For example, and this is encrypted, an example for encrypting your emails. You always need to have a public key and a private key. So if Martin wants to send Julia an email, what he does, he uses the public key, here the lock, to put on his message, to send it to Julia. And Julia is the only person who can open this message with her private key. Yeah? So in between, there's nobody who is able to read this message. But what is the problem with WhatsApp, for example? WhatsApp doesn't have end-to-end encryption because WhatsApp uses encryption, yes, but if Martin sends an email to Julia or a message, so the email is encrypted from Martin to the WhatsApp server. When it reaches the WhatsApp server, it is decrypted. And this is important for WhatsApp because WhatsApp says also, okay, for us it's very complicated to have an end-to-end encryption. It's much more it's easier to have this kind of decrypting your email in the WhatsApp server and send it to Julia. Many people don't know this difference, but in the WhatsApp server, everybody can read your email as it was a postcard. And you should know this. I'm hurrying a little bit up because to not talk too long. Number 6, we need more, and now it comes. I mean, we talk here in this conference a lot of about data journalism, how to visualize data, how to make great data visualization projects. We use Google for this. I think it's great, but on the other hand, we also need not only data journalism, we need also data journalism understood as data protection journalism. What I mean by that is that journalists, we have a responsibility to investigate these issues because many of us don't really know how this works. And I think this is one of the issues, one of the topics of this century, the data, how we treat private data, how we treat privacy, and how we can protect it or not protect it. I mean, the society will tell us how we are going to handle this. And one of the great data protection journalism examples, for example, is you can check out the NSA files from The Guardian. It's a really great special, I think. It's made in this scrollytelling style, parallax scrolling. Or again, this example from Zeit Online, Tell All Telephone. There's an English version. You can also find the links. This is the special where you can see how Malte Spitz, the Green politician, moved around Germany in 6 months. You can see all his movements, and this was reconstructed only with his phone metadata, as I told before. And a very important point for me is that we understand where is the threat. This is a screenshot of the SMS many protesters in Kiev received when they were protesting against Yanukovych. And this message says, "Dear subscriber, you are registered as a participant in a mass disturbance." So it was just an advice to the people, hello, we know who you are and where you are, and that you are taking part in a mass protest. And there are a lot of, I think there are a lot of examples you can show people in workshops on digital safety. For example, Ala Shehabi, we had her in our panel on digital safety. She works for Bahrain Watch, and she was a victim of spyware. She lives in London, And she received very strange mails, and just here she's telling us what really happened to her. And she lives in London, actually.
Well, I was not very aware of what digital safety or security means initially, but last year in April, I received several consecutive, very strange emails in which there was an attachment, and they looked like they were from people I knew or other public figures. So I immediately, receiving the emails, I tried to open this attachment, and some of them were very interesting, you know, telling me about secret negotiations with the Bahraini government, and I thought, wow, I'm very curious, let me try to open this email. Nothing would happen. I'd ask my friends, look, someone sent me something that looks very interesting, please open it for me. And they said to me, you've just sent us a virus. And then every 2 days I was getting a similar email, so I thought, someone's really desperate to try and get me to open this, who would it be? And so there was based on that specimen of the software that was attached in that email, there was a 2-month investigation, which good digital security experts were examining the software. And after 2 months, they discovered that it was a very sophisticated form of spyware, which can record audio, sound, it can look your cameras on, it can key logs everything that you write on your laptop.
And did you have the feeling like that someone is taking control over your laptop, or someone is being able to control it? What happened exactly?
Well,
how did you feel? How did you see it?
Well, I mean, because of I was very astute and forwarded it on to people that were technical, they identified that this was spyware. So I immediately took precautions. But then we also discovered that many activists would not have even noticed the emails, would have opened it, wasn't even aware that there was particular danger. And after this 2-month investigation, they discovered that it was software called FinSpy that's produced by a German-British company. And so, you know, even though I was shocked that the Bahraini government was trying to target me with this, I was even more shocked that this was a British-German company that was manufacturing this spyware and selling it onto the government, which was then used to spy and hack into our computers in Bahrain.
This is another example that shows that tools are fine but not always work. Because imagine you encrypt your email. If you have a spyware program installed on your laptop, it doesn't help you. It's worthless because everything is key-locked. So everything you type on your computer is recorded. So you can encrypt your mails, but this will work. So it's important to know the threat. Another little example is from the Associated Press. Some of the employees received some mails just with a link, and somebody told them, hey, read this article, it's very, very important. And the mail came from other colleagues. It was supposed from other colleagues. Of course, it was a spyware program. And so the hackers, what they achieved was to change their Twitter account and, for example, put the news, breaking news, 2 explosions in the White House and Barack Obama is injured. So you can see there's a very high, refined secret service community in the world. The people think it was the Syrian Electronic Army who did this attack. Another very important case from my point of view is the Cardoc case, which the Columbia Journalism Review explained in one of their issues. And it's about a British filmmaker. He went to Syria to make a documentary. So he recorded activists and told the activists, okay, when I go back, I'm going to blur your faces, of course, and I won't say who you are. The problem was when he wanted to get out Syria, he was arrested by the secret services in Syria, and they seized his laptop, his phone, everything, and he didn't have not even a password in his laptop. So the Secret Service could check everything. And the Cardoc was one of the activists. When he heard that, immediately left Syria and went to Lebanon to protect himself. And this is just a little case when it's not about NSA. It's just you have to think about where I'm going, what I'm doing, and what can happen to me. Yeah? So when we remember what Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein did, I mean, you remember Deep Throat, this secret source. This is a scene from the All President's Man movie. Woodward met Deep Throat always in a underground garage, and Deep Throat gave him clear instructions. He said, take this alley, don't use your own car, take a taxi cab, etc., drop off, don't get dropped off directly, walk the last several blocks. And time has changed, because today this is not really it's worthless. It doesn't help you really to protect your source, because it's very easy. If Bob Woodward takes his phone with him, it's very easy to track him. So one thing he can do, leave his phone at home. The same is when you have interviews with people, maybe if these are sensitive sources, you should leave out your phone from the room. Don't take it within the room. So it's important to have a plan. And I would like to quote here Jonathan Stray, who says this, and he says, security is not only a question of tools, it's also a question of habits. I mean, what is your daily routine? How are you moving? What kind of websites are you visiting, etc.? And threat modeling. And threat modeling is very important, that the journalist knows how to do it. So he should ask several questions. What do I want to keep private? Are these messages, locations, identities, networks? And who wants to know, really? I mean, is it really the NSA, or is it just the local Secret Service? Are there companies? Is it my neighbor? Is it also you can go to your office and look up what you are writing on? What can they do? I mean, can they eavesdrop, or can they exploit security lapses? Many companies, many media outlets don't give the possibility to their employees to use PGP encryption, for example. Even at Deutsche Welle, we have an encryption possibility, but it's quite difficult to use PGP because we have another firewall and all these things, so it's difficult to use these open tools. So many people, as they can't use open tools in their media outlet, go to Dropbox, go to whatever, because they always look for the most convenient way, but sometimes this way is quite dangerous. And what happens if they succeed? Is it just a story blown, or are there legal problems for my source? This is the threat modeling every journalist should do before he investigates something really delicate. And we have to stay realistic, of course. We won't use this kind of tent like Barack Obama, who's making phone calls in a special tent so nobody can really tap his phone calls. Stay realistic means that there is no silver bullet. I mean, it's not that I say these 3 tools are the best for you. I have to know, okay, the journalists in my media outlet are working now a new story, so they need these 3 tools and not 50 tools. And what can the employer do to protect the journalist? Because I think there's a big responsibility also of the employer to protect you. And point 9, integrate security experts in the newsroom. I mean, it's the same as in data journalism. We are integrating, or trying, not everybody, but many media outlets now are integrating hackers into the newsroom because they need their expertise. They need somebody who knows to code. So you also need somebody who knows about security issues. It does not have to be somebody from the IT department. Maybe you can identify different journalists and tell them, okay, you are in charge of security topics, so please give advice to your colleagues. Because the big question is always, when I'm going to a country or I'm going to interview somebody, okay, now I'm trying to use Tor for this, or I'm trying to use PGP, but is it really working what I'm doing? Who can tell me? Because I can read a lot of tutorials on the web, but does the measures really function? And my last point is really know where to learn, know about trustful websites, and I've put you some links there in the low pad as well. For example, for me, a really excellent website is the Security in a Box from Tactical Tech. As I told you before, they are going to give a workshop tomorrow, Anne Roth and Dan O'Clooney, and they have Security in a Box, which shows you all kinds of security message. Also, the journal security blog from the Committee of Protecting Journalists, or the Electronic Frontier Foundation, etc., etc. They have really, really good tutorials, and tutorials you can trust. So all these things you can find in this link, and so it's almost 3 o'clock. I'm sorry that I talked too much. I would like to thank you and ask you if there are some questions we can consider. Or any comment, maybe there's something somebody could add what we should take in account when we are doing trainings. If not, it's okay. One.
Do you use a smartphone actually?
Yes, I use two.
You
I
use
have
two
two.
of them for two different
No, not really.
circumstances?
I mean, this is the case. You always have to look up for your threat model. And now I use a smartphone as a journalistic trainer. With this smartphone, I use all these funny tools to check them out and all this. My private email account and